drunk, are you ready to meet me? I'm lit and I'm riding the fast lane. Don't let me down, I'm on fire.
Okay, yeah, so I'm Mike Province, and I'm 55, and I've been skating off and on since I was probably about 9, so that's what, 46 years, I guess. I started when I was probably 9. I mean, you know, I wanted to be able to go surfing, but in East County, there was no way to get to the beach, so I had to do something else, and that was skating. Well, there were some parks around. I mean, I was a little bit too young for Spring Valley. We had La Mesa Skate Park that was a ruin, and we snuck in and skated that. There was a reservoir there, a lot of dirt. That was okay. Then, you know, there were other places around. Then we skated at Oasis, and there were, you know, lots of people who later became pretty famous pro skaters there about the same time, like Tony Hawk and Billy Ruff and people like that. And Oasis was a good park. It was under where the 805 interchange is now. So that was kind of the place that I skated the most. This was, I guess, the late 70s. So.
And so I guess at this age, why do you skateboard now?
Well, because I love it. You know, when I started again, it was because I had a son who's a good skater and is now 17. But when he was about probably 5, there were 2 reasons really. I wanted to prove to my wife that I had once been physically coordinated and could do something that, you know, took good coordination, because I wasn't a ball player. I couldn't do any of that stuff, and she thought I was kind of klutzy. So I wanted to say, hey, wait, look at this. And then I wanted to do it with my son, and you know, and then I started doing it with your dad, and you know, with some of the old timers, and I mean, you know, it was just as much fun as it ever was to do it, you know, in our 40s. So I think we all sort of said, hey man, this is something really important. We got to keep doing it as long as we can.
What originally got you to stop skateboarding?
Well, I guess in the first place it was punk rock. You know, you couldn't. I mean, if you were completely devoted to the punk scene, you couldn't skate very much. Although some people tried, I guess. So that was it. And then, you know, I worked for a skateboard company. I worked for Gullwing, like your dad did, like Mike did, and that was, you know, that actually kind of made me not skate very much, you know, because I was kind of around it. And then, you know, life happened. I did other stuff, and for probably 15 years I didn't skate, at least 15 years, you know.
What did you go on to do? Like, where did you put your skateboard energy?
Well, after Gullwing, you know, I worked in machine shops, and then I decided that I didn't want to work for the people who own Gullwing anymore, because I kind of didn't like them as human beings, and I didn't like East County as a sort of a place, and so I saved a bunch of money, and I ended up buying a one-way ticket to Amsterdam, and I hitchhiked for 12 months all the way to India. And then by the time I came back, I thought, I'm going to be a historian. And so I started going to school and studied Arabic, and gradually got a PhD in Middle Eastern history, wrote a couple books, and became a professor of Middle Eastern history at UCSD. So, you know, if it hadn't been for the unenlightened, you know, management of Gullwing, maybe none of it would have happened. I wanted to get as far away from those guys as I could. You know, I mean, I didn't really expect to ever come back to San Diego. And like I say, I mean, you know, skating is, you know, you want to progress, right? Which is really hard when you're in middle age. It doesn't really happen, but you can try. You know, you keep that dream alive, you know? I mean, like you know, Zach, and like your dad knows, you know, it's been like 7 years of working on my backside air, and I've got one picture where my back wheel is like, you know, 2 inches off the wall. But you know, I'm still dreaming. I'm still going to make it. So I mean, you know, what could be better? I don't know how long we're going to be able to keep doing it, but I sure want to. I don't really want to think about the time that I'm actually going to have to quit.
Where are you at now with skateboarding?
Well, I'm trying not to regress. I'm trying, you know, to keep it. I have like I used to drive around with a list of tricks that I was going to actually master, you know, and I had it like attached to the ashtray of my car. You know, it's still there. I'm never going to get to those tricks, you know, it's not going to happen. But now, you know, I've got like a list of things that I try to do every time I skate, and, you know, I got to do frontside roll-ins. I got to do some frontside grinds, and, you know, over on a vertical section, stuff like that. If I get through all that stuff and I'm not actually, you know, sort of actively losing tricks, then I feel pretty good about it. And, you know, I feel like, okay, I raised my heart rate, kept off, you know, I'm not going to go to the emergency room with a heart attack for another couple weeks. You know, it was a success. So I mean, you can't beat it for. I mean, I don't want to go to the gym. You know, I don't want to run. I just want to skate. You know, there are guys who started in their 30s or even 40s who actually get to be pretty good skaters. It's not impossible. It's just a matter of time. You know, I mean, there's a pretty famous book by a guy named Malcolm Gladwell that says that to really master something important, it takes, you know, thousands of hours of practice. And skating is like that, you know. I mean, you see the really good skaters, and they're the people who spent every single day for years skating at some point in their lives. And if you don't put in that time, it just, you know, it doesn't happen. It's not possible. But, you know, there's absolutely no reason, and there are older skaters who are obviously getting better. I'm not one of them, you know. Kind of wish I was, but, you know, there's other things in life. But it's absolutely possible. People do it, you know. I've seen it. It's definitely possible.
Wise words for someone like me that wants to continue skateboarding until we can't walk?
Well, you're not going to like it, but I'd say pad up.
No, I like that. Be honest with me.
Yeah, pad up, and you know, don't wear low top shoes.
Yeah. So just think more about the long term.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I watched a video of Steve Caballero, you know, who was like one of my number one heroes at the age of 13, because I think he's goofy foot like I am, you know, and he was about the same age. And I watched him skate and at the Vans pool or something, and he fell. And I could tell he was wearing hockey pants. And I thought, all right, okay, you and me, Steve.
Yeah, seems like preparing, yeah.
That's right, you know, I mean, if you want to keep doing it, you got to kind of plan ahead to keep doing it.